Let's ensure that our schools are properly funded, and so that the cuts that have been made and the so-called fair funding formula, I mean, goodness, George Orwell could have written that, couldn't he? The fair funding formula is anything but fair, and with the increase in school numbers, the actual spending per head has fallen rather than risen. The first time, I think, in my lifetime that the school funding per pupil has actually fallen in many parts of the country. That is simply wrong. We're not a poor country, but we do have massive inequality within our country. That is what has to change. Schools can't change everything, but if they're properly funded, can make sure every child gets a decent opportunity in school. And that's why I'm keen that we should encourage a more rounded education system that fosters the joy of learning. And so we thought about this a great deal and looked at other education systems in other countries and other parts of the world. And I think the stress levels that are put on children at Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 are excessive. The stresses put on the teachers are excessive, and I would rather we had a system of teacher appraisal of children rather than the SAT system, so we would end the SAT system in primary schools. It's the involvement of the entire community in supporting our schools and our teachers that can make sure we can put the pressure on this government in the autumn spending statement to refund the schools properly so we don't go into next year with yet another cut in the spending per head within our schools, but also fund education properly for the future. If we continue down the path, the economic path of austerity, it will lead to greater inequality. It will lead to greater inequality in our schools. It will lead to more underfunding in our schools. It will lead to more and more underachievement. And when you underfund a school, at one level all children lose out. But the ones who lose out the most are those that often come from the poorest backgrounds or those that have the greatest needs. Those that are special needs children, those that have disabilities also lose out, as the school then can't properly fund the SENCO or have a completely dedicated SENCO for each school. These things are very, very important and they absolutely matter. So all of us in our campaigning work can develop and change public opinion so that we put the resources we absolutely need in the most important and valuable place possible, and that is the children and young people in our schools. They, after all, are our future, and it's my pleasure to be here to share a few thoughts with you today. Thank you very much for inviting me.